5 years ago, Petra was tasked with an insurmountable goal. Riven of 1,000 voices, the last known Ahamkara must be slain. Taken through her own wish magic and facilitator of Olgin's corruption, the Scorn's creation, and ultimately Cade's death, Riven was a beast unlike any other, and it fell on the shoulders of Guardians to fulfill what Mara Sov asked of Petra. On September 14, 2018, Guardians flooded through the Dreaming City with one goal in mind: slay a Wish Dragon. One step at a time, teams made way through the challenges blocking their progression, all up until the last barrier between Lightbearer and Wish Granter, the vault door of the Dreaming City's spire. Attempt after attempt as the hours passed, the code had yet to be cracked, but eventually a solution was brute forced. The puzzle thrown by the wayside, and soon after, Riven would fall. A year or two passed, and someone said to me,
"You know, no one really figured out Vault's solution. To this day, no one knows how it was meant to be solved."
They continued to speak their thoughts on how the encounter was only ever brute forced, and since day one, the knowledge has simply been handed down through guides, Sherpas, or word of mouth. But deep down, from the moment I stepped foot into Vault, I had a gut feeling. So after years, I finally pieced together my instinct into a composed theory, the long hidden key in decrypting the Vault door. So listen now, O Guardian mine, as I weave a tale of how Bungie intended for Lastwish's Vault encounter to be solved, and how it became an unforgettable lesson in raid design since. To understand the dance of light and dark waiting to unfold in the Dreaming City, I must first enlighten you on the dance of light and dark that we see in our everyday lives. I do hope you've some knowledge of solar eclipses, because we're about to play an exaggerated game with the concept. Imagine, if you will, the moon is positioned precisely between the sun and Earth, and there you stand on the lunar surface staring upwards towards your home. You are in darkness, as is most of what you see, but at the edge of the world above you, there is light. A ring of blue visible where the moon's shadow does not fully reach, but within that ring is shadow growing darker the closer to center you look. In this scenario, you can see 3 of the 4 key components to a shadow: the light source, illuminating all that it can from behind you; the umbra, an inky darkness where little light reaches; and the penumbra, the lighter shade, reaching out from the center of your view to the edge of the world. So what of the 4th component? Well, should the Earth and its moon drift apart, then you may begin to notice in the pitch black core of shadow something has begun to change. Darkness is giving way to light. The antumbra, a bright yet shaded zone beyond the umbra, formed courtesy of physics. And there you have the 4 key components behind any shadow. But what does this model have to do with Last Wish? Simply keep the 4 zones I've described in mind, and all will become clear in time: light, umbra, penumbra, and antumbra. As you're lifted into the Dreaming City's vault, you'll find yourself in a set of 4 rooms. 4 rooms and 4 components. The center room is shining bright, a bowl of light hung from the ceiling, our light source. Where you entered, often called stairs, is the middle child, cast in darkness, our umbra. To your left, clad in green and known to many as tree or garden, is a room where shade is thick, but light still reaches, our penumbra. And to your right, a more well-lit housing for rock pillars, is a room almost as bright as the central one, but still with some shade, our antumbra. These 4 rooms each feature a unique light level within, and as I've just outlined, each perfectly corresponds to a component of light and dark from our shadow model. But wait just a moment, did you notice that? Let's roll back the footage of our rock and tree rooms. There, those light sources, they look familiar, don't they? The lamp in the tree room is a mere ring, matching the visual we see when Earth is only hit by the umbra and penumbra of the moon. And the lamp in the rocks room is a ring with a dot in the center, which perfectly matches what we saw when Earth was in the moon's antumbra. The answer's been sitting in front of everyone's eyes since day one, or at least part of it has. But now that we know that our umbra is in the middle, penumbra to the left and antumbra to the right, I think it's time that we dive into the encounter's mechanics, wouldn't you agree? There are 2 main roles within the Vault encounter: reading, which I'll discuss shortly, and running. As a runner, once you've defeated the Eye of Riven and collected the taken essence from it, you'll notice an identifier appear in the bottom left of your screen alongside your buffs. The essence's identifier will be one of 2 types: penumbra or antumbra. And now everything begins to fall into place. But wait, do not fall into this trap. Do not make any assumptions. I may have just claimed that the tree room is penumbra off to the left, but that does not mean that the tree plate will require a penumbral essence to cleanse it. Similarly, the rock room may be our antumbra off to the right, but the rock plate may not require an antumbral essence either. And what of umbra? Why is there no essence type matching it? You see, this is where I feel that Bungie's raid team failed in creating a cohesive mechanic. And while Vault is my favorite raid encounter in the entire game, that does not mean that it was perfectly designed by any means. To understand what I mean, it's time you understand the role of the reader. When reading in Vault, you'll find yourself presented with a set of 3 symbols: 1 to the left, 1 to the right, and 1 with a circle around it in the middle. Left, right middle. Penumbra, Antumbra, Umbra. Perhaps now it's become clear, our left symbol denotes Penumbra, our right denotes Antumbra, and directly in front of us is our Umbra. But how is this code deciphered? Well, all the reader must do is declare their middle symbol, their Umbra. From there, the other readers determine if the matching symbol exists for their room, and if so, whether it is on the left or right, whether it is the Penumbra or the Antumbra. When a match is found, which side it's on denotes the required essence. The left symbol, Penumbra is needed. Right, Antumbra is your key. There's no brute force required. So now you know how I believe Bungie intended for Vault to be solved, but I mentioned that I felt they failed in creating a cohesive mechanic for the encounter. Did the raid design team learn from their mistakes? I think that when you look at the raid since Lastwish, the answer is pretty clear. In any subsequent releases which utilize the game of light and dark, the sides have been much more explicitly split. Be it Crypt Security in Deepstone or Acquisition in VOW, Bungie's raid team has begun to clearly denote which sides are light and dark ever since Lastwish. As well, there hasn't been a single raid encounter since Vault where the same set of clues was ambiguously utilized in two different ways. This, by the way, is the reason I outlined the runner's job before the readers, to emphasize the convolution caused when using the left and right rooms to determine Penumbra and Antumbra, and then using the left and right to determine the same thing. See, I can't even explain the confusion without it being confusing. Bungie failed to make it clear that trees is only considered left when gaining initial knowledge of the components of the shadow, and in doing so they failed to provide a challenge which could be solved in a reasonable time frame under the pressures of a day one raid race, without resorting to brute force at least. I personally believe that Bungie's raid team was so disappointed in the response to Vault on day one that the experience gave them what might be one of the most important design lessons for raiding to date: the balance between clarity and ambiguity. Make the solution too vague and obscure and risk ending up with a second Vault. Make it too obvious and you may as well just tell Guardians to connect the dots. Okay, I originally wrote this script before Root of Nightmares dropped. I think they might have missed that part of the memo while working on the root, but that's a topic for another day. In the end, I'll say this much: it has been over 5 years since Lastwish released, and I honestly don't know who all has pieced together Vault's intended solution, but I'm pretty confident when I say there's no way I'm the first person. Even so, I can proudly say that since the beginning, Vault has had a proper solution which can be found with a little ingenuity and zero brute force at all. Now, did I only truly begin working to understand my gut feeling out of pure spite and an unwarranted faith in Bungie's raid team? Yeah, I did. And was I there on day one trying to piece it together alongside everyone? And no, I was not. I wasn't until almost 2 months later that I finally ran my first Lastwish. But that doesn't change the fact that Bungie hung descriptive lights in the left and right rooms. And hey, you did sit through all that I had to say on the matter, so thank you. I truly hope you've enjoyed this deep dive into my theory on the truth behind Vault's solution, and if you did, a like or even subscription is greatly appreciated. Thank you all so much for watching, and well, until next time, Guardian, bye. Hey, thanks again for watching. I just wanted to say, I wanted this out originally for the 5-year anniversary of Lastwish, but hey, better late than never, am I right?